Today I will be presenting on my analysis regarding the potential of business expansion for Boulder beer into the Australian beer market. The data analyst team here at Boulder Beer Company in Boulder, Colorado has been considering expanding internationally. However, in order to decide if the investment required to expand would be worth it, we needed to analyze the demand for beer in the international market. Our first country of analysis was Australia. We used time series data from 1963 to 2009 to study the past trends of beer consumption per capita in Australia. Then we used various forecasting techniques to predict how those trends will continue in the future up until 2011. Upon looking at the initial raw data, it looks like the overall beer consumption per capita is declining over time. However, it's necessary to conduct a deeper analysis to truly see if the beer consumption is on decline in Australia. All of the following models we will go through were run through various types of testing. This included regression, moving averages, weighted moving averages, and finally exponential smoothing. Accuracy tests on these models allowed for comparison using mean error, mean absolute deviation, mean absolute percent error, and finally the tracking signal. The way we determined if a model was accurate was if its mean error was close to zero, if its mean absolute deviation was as small as possible, if its mean absolute percent error was predicting a better percentage than other models, and finally, we only considered a model to be accurate if it had a tracking signal between -4 and 4. A few of our techniques did not work out for us. These included moving averages, weighted moving averages, and exponential smoothing at alpha 0.6 and 0.2. Here's a closer look at the moving average model. The 3-year moving average is denoted by the orange line, and the 6-year moving average is denoted by the gray line on the graph. These can be compared to the blue line, which represent the actual consumption data. Below the graph is also a small screenshot of the value for each of the accuracy criteria. This is only the data for the 3-year moving average, but it's representative of the 6-year data as well. This shows that even though mean error is close to zero and the MAD is relatively small, the tracking signal is far below the -4 threshold, signaling this is a failed model. The weighted moving averages seem to show a slightly better model than the non-weighting moving averages. However, the tracking signal still tells us that we cannot use this model as an accurate forecaster. Now we move on to the first of our 3 alpha values in the exponential smoothing model. This model is already the best model we've looked at thus far. The ME is low, the MAD is low, and the tracking signal is close to the -4 threshold. The next exponential is again showing a tracking signal that is almost within our -4 to 4 reach. This means that we're on the right track, but our alpha value must fall somewhere else between the -2 and the 0.2 and the 0.6. Even though it seems that the majority of our models failed, we did find 2 that gave us accurate forecasts. The successful techniques were regression and then exponential smoothing with an alpha value of 0.4. In this case, under our regression model, the ME is close to 0, the MAD is small, and the tracking signal is -1e to the -14, which falls in the accuracy threshold. Under this model, we can see that even though actual beer consumption is at a very slow decline, the orange forecasted line shows that this decline is predicted to continue. Finally, exponential smoothing at an alpha value of 0.4 was also seen as a successful model. This model again meets all of our criteria. It shows a slight decline and what looks like a potential increase. However, the overall decline throughout the years is still pretty significant. So our conclusion for the Boulder Beer financial team is that based on what you see above, the tracking signal trends as well as the initial forecasting graphs for both of our successful techniques show a declining trend. Even though the regression chart shows a possible slight increase, I still believe the overall significant decline is concerning. For this reason, since beer seems to be losing its popularity in Australia, I recommend that we choose not to invest in expanding into the Australian market and begin analyzing other countries for possible expansions. Thank you so much for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.